Have you been playing Monster Hunter Wilds and you've been left yearning for something more of a challenge? Well, then you've come to the right place. Introducing the Iron Hunter Wilds Challenge Run. The number one complaint I've heard about Monster Hunter Wilds, other than the performance issues, is mostly about the difficulty in the game, so I figured I'd come up with a challenge run to provide some fun and more challenging opportunities for people to play through the game. Before diving into the rules, I just want to say that these will be self-imposed restrictions. This isn't a part of a mod or anything like that. I'm just going to be putting these restrictions on myself as I play through the game. And of course, if you plan on following along, feel free to add or remove any of these rules as you see fit. And if you add any more or remove any and you find yourself having a good experience with it, I'd love for you to comment them down below, what you did and how you played and how it impacted your experience with the game. So now let's get into the rules. The first rule I have is no co-op. Of course, if you have other people who want to do this challenge alongside you and stuff, I could see that working out, but I feel like most people would agree co-op in these games can mitigate some of the challenge. So, this being a challenge run and all, the first rule I have is no co-op. Secondly is no palicos. The palico in Monster Hunter Wild can be very helpful, ranging from distracting the monster to healing you.
Leave this to me! Heals inbound! Leave this to me! Heals inbound!
To curing your ailments, or even inflicting its ailments upon the monsters you're fighting, depending on the weapon it has. So, we're going to be removing the palicos just to try to keep it a 1v1 between you and the monster. And to do so, you can go to any of the tents, and in the menu you can dismiss your palico. Number 3 is no sacred recovery. So when you get knocked back by a monster and your hunter is completely on the floor, you can use the D-pad to call your sacred to pick you up, and you'll go instantly from the floor state, like laying on the floor, to riding on your sacred. And this can help you get out of a lot of tricky situations that in older Monster Hunter games you wouldn't have had this option to do that. But to try to get back to that older feel, I'm going to be limiting myself from doing this. I don't think there's any way to turn this off in the options menu, so you'll just have to prevent yourself from pressing the button if you're already in the muscle memory of doing so. I think this rule will lead to a lot more dangerous situations with monsters because in the older Monster Hunter games, you had to know when to get up, whether you should lay down because the monster's currently in the middle of a combo and wait for it to end, or if you should get up and get out of the way before the monster's next combo starts. And I think that the Sacred Recovery, at least for me when I played the game, removed a lot of that threat because if I didn't know what to do, I would just call my Sacred and get to safety. But now with this in place, I won't have that option and I'll actually have to think about what move's coming next and how I'm going to avoid it. The next rule is limited grinding. Naturally, Monster Hunter is a very grindy game. You can always choose to grind out each monster you come across and then make their entire armor set and all their weapons and stuff like that to be more prepared for the next monster you face. But for the sake of a challenge run, you kind of want to limit that somehow or restrict it. So I think what's best is that each optional quest you get, you can only complete once. And there's an easy way to check for this too, just in case you've forgotten what quests you've done. You can just go to your optional quest log, and if it has a check mark, that means you've already done it before. And just like we're limiting the optional quests, there is also going to be a limit on investigations. The only time you'll be allowed to do investigations is in the high rank portion of the story where your next objective is only to raise your hunter rank until you get to the next cap, and then you can do the next story mission. So as long as you're not at that cap yet and you can't progress the story yet, then you'll be allowed to do investigations. But if you're ready to do main story, you have to attempt it as soon as you reach it, just to prevent the grinding, but of course the investigations will be allowed because you'll probably need those to be raising your hunter rank to the next story cap. And if you're unsure what the investigations are, those are just the hunts that you can create on any of the monsters that you encounter through the wild or on your map. And speaking of hunter rank, each hunter rank you get to, you'll need to lock in a new weapon type that you'll use exclusively for that hunter rank. So for example, if you use hammer in HR1, you can't use it again in HR2 and you'll be choosing a new weapon, maybe like longsword. And then on HR3, you won't be able to use hammer or longsword, and you'll choose the next weapon. And then once you get to high rank, you'll have to split it up into the hunter rank caps, just like with the investigation. So when you're at a hunter rank cap, you'll lock in what weapon you're going to use until you reach the next hunter rank cap, and then you'll switch your weapon again. And just to be clear, you're only allowed the one weapon type per HR, so you can rock 2 sword and shields if you want to have one of them in your sacred, and you'd switch between maybe elements, or maybe one has a status and one doesn't. So if you want to do that, you can bring 2 of the same weapon types, but you're only allowed the one weapon type per hunter rank. This next one is more so to bring the feel of the game closer to the older ones. I don't think it'll be super impactful, I don't think it'll ruin any runs terribly, but it is no item restocking during a hunt. So this means you're not allowed to go to your tent once a hunt started and restock on your items. So if you either forgot to restock before the hunt, or maybe you just used up all your potions or something, or you didn't bring a hot drink, then you're going to have to go scavenge for those yourself. You're not going to be able to go to your tent to restock on those. And while I don't think this is going to be super game-changing, I do think it'll add for some funny moments if you happen to forget, or maybe you just didn't prepare correctly. Similar to the older games when you enter a hunt unprepared. And lastly, this one I'm going to leave up for everyone to decide on their own, because I feel like this is going to be very up to personal preference, but how you want to handle permadeath in this challenge. So you can make it so if you cart once, that's considered a failure and you should restart the entire run. You can make it so a quest failure would count as restarting the entire run, or if you'd rather just not have permadeath at all and you just go ahead and retry it from where you're at. The reason I leave this up for people to decide is because I know the early game of Monster Hunter Wilds can be a bit slow, especially sitting through all the sacred guiding segments. So I figured you might as well leave this open for anyone to decide, because it's just going to lead to frustration if people keep on getting really close and then they have to redo everything. So I think that if you have it every cart, I think you'll definitely be more likely to fail, of course. Whereas if you leave it to quest failure, you may or may not have to reset a couple times. And then obviously if you just don't want the stress, you know, and you just want to try to go through this for a fun little challenge, obviously the challenge is going to be kind of the same whether you reset or not. But if you have fun in restarting from the beginning and trying to do it all in one run, like so you kind of did it in one life type of deal, obviously I think the challenge is there for you if you want it. And that's the Iron Hunter Wilds rule set. I hope everyone gives it a try. If you do end up giving it a try, I'd love to hear your feedback for it in the comments. If you have any rules you changed, or maybe you thought it was too easy still, or maybe it was too hard even. So I'd love to hear what you guys think about it. And if you're interested in watching something like this, I will be live this Monday, April 7th at noon Eastern Time, and all Mondays from there going forward until I beat the challenge with this challenge run. So if you're interested in watching that, you can find me there on Twitch, or my VODs will also be uploaded to YouTube after I go offline. So if you're interested in watching that, you can always stop by there and say what's up. But also, if you're a content creator yourself, I'd love to see more people hopping into this challenge and potentially making YouTube videos or streaming it. And I'm hoping that this challenge run will help breathe more difficulty into the game while people are waiting for the devs to come out with more content updates and hopefully more of the difficult hunts that people are looking forward to. And that'll bring us to the end of the video, so thank you all for watching, and happy hunting!